This is a true story by Duane Danielson. It is a cold, raw day in the northern prairie, with signs of winter coming soon. It is 3:02 p.m. on October 12, 1941, and the eastbound North Coast Limited train number 2 is running on time. Headed by a gorgeous new steam engine, the train carries hundreds of passengers who got aboard in Seattle and other stations in the Pacific Northwest. Most of them have been on the train for a day and a half and are hoping to arrive in Chicago tomorrow afternoon. The monotony is broken. The brakes are applied abruptly and the train slows to a halt at an empty spot in the endless prairie. Some passengers have been following the train's progress, and they search their printed timetables, but the reason for this stop is unscheduled. A small red flag was spotted by the hard-driving veteran engineer Herman Ulrich. This utterly anonymous place has a name: Koldok, North Dakota. Only a short time ago, one of the workmen on the Northern Pacific Railroad detected a problem 2 miles ahead. He called for his boss, the section foreman, Duane Danielson. It is a crack in one of the steel rails. The problem was this: the cracked rail was on a switch sometimes used to divert local freight trains into a small town called Tower City. Nearby was a restaurant known to the railroad men as a beanery. At this time, Carl has 2 months to go before the beginning of his hard-earned retirement. Serious thought must go into placing a red flag on the track when a scheduled transcontinental passenger train is on its way. An unnecessary stop to such a train is cause for immediate dismissal, leading to the loss of retirement for a man devoted to his work. Is the crack a train stopper? At what speed could the track weaken and break, causing a major derailment and loss of life? The engine is the first Northern Pacific Class A4 from the Baldwin Locomotive Works in Pennsylvania, and this is its first eastbound revenue run. Carl realizes there are too many unknown factors and too many precious lives aboard to take a risk. He places the red flag and awaits the train. Once it is at rest, Engineer Ulrich descends from the cab. The watercolor painting entitled "Red Flag at Koldok" depicts the shiny new surface of the engine and its green signal lights and flags. This color denotes a following train, another section of the North Coast Limited train number 2, soon to roll through with the same top priority on the rails across North Dakota. Ulrich and Danielson are shown standing alongside the engine, checking their watches as Herman chomps on his cigar impatiently, hoping to know when Carl will have the track fixed. Traffic on the Northern Pacific was picking up right before the entry of the United States into World War II, and the NP was trying to keep a tight schedule with its premier passenger train. Carl was in charge of all tracks, stations, and operations on his section, which extended about 10 miles from Koldok east to Magnolia, North Dakota. Every westbound train had to stop to replenish coal at the 112-foot-high tower, with a conical design and called an ogle. It was visible across miles of prairie in all directions. This scene was rendered by artist Jeff Ellingson, a lifelong railroad man involved in restoring steam trains. He is a railroad engineer, conductor, and over-the-road curator of some of our nation's historical treasures of transportation. The situation was resolved, and Carl retired in 1941. He took up carrying the mail pouch for the train. Daily, he would go into Tower City Depot. His pipe smoke wafted through the air during his short visits with the depot agent. During his working career, his first duty of the day as a section foreman had been to set his 1906 Hamilton Railroad watch against the regulator clock on the wall. And he continued this discipline uninterrupted, although he was no longer responsible for track maintenance. His duty was now to hang up the mail pouch he had gathered at the post office. The pickup hook was outside of the station alongside the main line railroad tracks running through Tower City. A Northern Pacific passenger train stopped in town every day and dropped off another mail pouch, which Carl brought to the post office. Afterward, he would sit in his rocking chair at home, listening to the news on the radio with his white Spitz dog Frida alongside him. On Saturday afternoons in Tower City, he would come to the grocery store owned by his son, who was a professional butcher. He would cut a fresh pork roast for the Sunday dinner to be enjoyed by his parents, Carl and Bertna. The store always had fresh meat, a luxury not enjoyed by many in North Dakota during the Depression, and especially unusual in a town of 350 residents. In 1947, Carl took his 5-year-old grandson, Duane, up into the cab of a W3 steam engine on the siding and let him blow the whistle and ring the bell. These were sweet years in comparison to the difficulties he had faced as a section foreman on the North Dakota prairie. Carl told another grandson, Kicker, about a snowstorm years before, in which he had been some distance down the tracks working. When eventually he came home to Bertna, she had to remove his frozen clothes herself and provide hot water to warm him up. Carl enjoyed nearly 10 years of retirement before contracting cancer and dying in the Northern Pacific Hospital in St. Paul, Minnesota on January 28, 1951.